This is a pod full of saints on the penultimate day of February for a change, the 28th of February, 2024, because they've given us an extra one for some reason, but I never understand. Anyway, we're going to use this time to talk about games that have gone. 1-1 draw with Welling United, a 3-3 draw with Weymouth, and talk about what's coming up with Hampton and any other bits. But the two on the other end of his camera, that's Jake Ellacott
Hello, everyone.
and Lee Wood,
David, Jacob, everyone, hello.
what they've got in mind. Right, we're going to talk football, aren't we? Because we know everything about football.
Ah.
Right,
Dear
last
me.
Saturday, Welling United at Clarence Park. Rod Stringer has been in charge of Welling about 3 weeks. Doing a pretty good job from what we saw. Very big side, very, very tall side. A 1-1 draw. I think John Meeks thought we should have had it wrapped up whenever. What did you two make of it from behind the goal?
Is he doing a good job? I mean, I think we spoke about this. They were going to be extremely hard to beat. They're not purists of the beautiful game. I mean, if you are a Welling fan, imagine being a Welling fan having to pay to watch that shite every single week. What the one thing I would say is we knew it was going to be tough. We knew it was going to be extremely hard. And yes, Savs, they're big, they're physical, but by God, it is effective, mate, isn't it?
Yeah, I wouldn't condemn them quite the way you have, Lee. Which is pretty strong. I think they're a better side than that. And my notes I mentioned the other day, so you see them quickly getting out of trouble. And lo and behold, last night beat Truro 3-2, and there they are, out of the bottom four for the first time since August. What did you make of them, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, I thought they were a fairly well-built side, actually. I thought in terms of shape and the way they played, it wasn't. We've faced worse teams, I think, this season. Certainly, I think they're top of the form league now, aren't they? If you look at it that way, you can see that's a reasonable point. But yeah, at times we didn't quite get going, did we? I think we saw a couple of changes to the team, which I think maybe didn't quite work as possibly as we expected. And their goalkeeper, I think he was in the non-league papers team of the week. I know that doesn't mean much, really, given the quality of the reporting in there. But he made a couple of decent saves, especially one I thought at his near post with his boot. So maybe a few chances there, but overall, I don't have massive complaints about that draw. I didn't think, because I thought Welling, they probably deserve something from the game as well.
Yeah, you mentioned the changes. No Michael Clark, no Aidan Francis Clark, both out injured. Zane Banton relegated to the bench, all of which meant Joe Partington, player of the year, I believe, isn't he? Dan Bowery and Ryan Blackman all came back into the side. Somewhat fleetingly, two of them, it must be said, bearing in mind the last night's game, but we'll come on to that shortly. But Welling took the lead, right, on 26 minutes with Ryan Blackman's second own goal of the season. Our fifth own goal. Unbelievable this season. Shaun Jeffers popped up a minute later. Excellent goal, wasn't it? How did it look behind the goal? It looked a great finish from the side.
Yeah, it was really, really well taken. And I think if we don't respond as quickly as we do, there's an argument there for us to come away with absolutely nothing out of that game, because they were just going to sit behind the ball, and you knew as soon as they went ahead, it was going to be a much tougher task. But the Jeffers goal, I loved the way that turn of pace first off, and then that little feint to the defender. He looked as though he was going to sort of stop and cut inside, but he kept going and through the legs, bottom corner, absolutely sublime finish from a fantastic player to get his 100th goal for the Saints. So it was really, really well taken and deft as well. Brilliant.
One of his best ones, I thought, Jake, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the only sadness about it is we didn't try any more balls like that after that. It seemed to be quite an incisive ball. And as you say, Shaun Jeffers, he's not exactly the quickest, is he? But he showed his pace against that back line. It was brilliant, and it was a superb finish. It was almost in slow motion from behind the goal, but it did always look like it was going in just the way it was going to bounce off the post. But absolutely brilliant goal. And as Lee said, what a way to bring up his century. I think that goal almost sums him up, doesn't he? And just, this way he plays, he can almost do anything as a forward. He's absolutely brilliant.
Very sad that the club didn't announce it till well after the game, but it was his 100th. They were totally oblivious to it. The reason being because the club's player stats, blooming awful. They had it down as his 94th goal for the club. Very good, lads. There's only 6 out. And what was it? 23, 24 players listed in the appearances charts in the programme. They got the stats wrong. It's unacceptable. If you're charging £3, that is unacceptable. Anyway, we shall sweep that under the carpet, as we will the date of 2023 on the top of the team sheet. All right, Jeffers' goal. What other plus points do we get from the game?
The fact that we weren't going to be out-muscled or out-bullied. I like that aspect of our game. We kept playing our game. We kept trying to pull them apart. We didn't resort to their level. Small pluses. But the one thing I think you do have to give Welling some sort of credit, because although it's not pretty, as we've alluded to, it's effective and it gets results. But the one thing that concerns me at the minute, there were a few, and I don't know whether they're regular fans or whether they were just sort of there for the day out or whatever, but a few moans and groans about the quality of football, the fact that we're not winning every single time. And I think there's got to be a realisation that results aren't going to be given to us on a platter. We're going to have to work hard for them. And Welling made us work extremely hard for our point. And in fairness, it could have been 3 for us. It could have been 3 for them. So I think given the fact that Stringer's come in and done whatever he's done, we should be quite sort of thankful for the fact that we have come away with something. And although we are building under John Meeks, is it 2 points dropped, fellas? Given the fact we hit the post and we've had chances, we had headers go wide when we really should be hitting the sort of target. Is it a case of 2 points dropped, or should we be sort of grateful for the fact that it's still another point on our playoff push?
Really, it probably is 2 points dropped. You're probably right, Lee. But Jake alluded to them being the form side. Well, apart from Weymouth winning, Braintree winning 7 or 8 in a row now. They are on a good run. With last night's result, they are 7 unbeaten. They are tough to beat. They're going to keep climbing. There's no danger of them going down at all. I'm not going to go down knocking them as hard as you, Lee. I think they're a better side than that. But you can see they are building it around strength and size, and it certainly is effective. And they're going to pick up a lot more points during the rest of the season. But even so, you're probably right. At home, where we are, points away from home, a single point from away games isn't the end of the world. But we do need to keep winning at home. But you're not going to win every one. But of course, that's draws against Yeovil and Welling now in John makes his 3 home games. It's still not a bad record.
No, but I think Lee said, we have to keep some perspective. Look at this compared to where we were a few months ago, and in terms of people maybe getting a bit frustrated. I think some people maybe saw the table and thought, right, this could be an easy one, this bit like Taunton the other week. But you actually have to look more in depth, look at the manager, look at the team he's put together there. I think most of us knew it was going to be really difficult, and it did prove to be that. And, it probably is 2 points dropped based upon those chances. But then at the other point, Welling did have their openings as well. Maybe they could have had a penalty as well, penalty shout against Partington.
Definitely have a penalty shout against Partington.
Yeah. So, like Lee says, at this stage of the season, it's good to see a point on the board. It's a shame we couldn't get that, but a bit of patience is required, even at this stage. We're not going to win every game. We're not going to roll over teams 3, 4, 5-0 every week at this point.
Wasn't it nice to see the sign above the cover terrace restore to its former glory? It's only 2 weeks ago, I think, the club put out a statement saying we've been unable to do it because of a wet winter. So what do? I repair it during the wettest week of winter. Make of that what you will. Anyway, it's good to be back.
You're a details man, David, today.
Details of what? No, that's it. Right, anything else you want to add to that? Was it a 442nd 1-1 draw?
That's good stuff.
Another brilliant crowd, wasn't it? Great crowd.
Yeah.
Given the situation in terms of the weather, etc. So that's really good. But apart from that, not much else, is there?
Well, there was a little bit of time wasting going on, as there are in every game. We do it, all sides do it. Now, why, when we have these kids lined up as guards of honour, why don't we use them as ball boys and ball girls during the game? Anybody know? Trust will have an answer, won't they, Jake?
I'd say that's a very good question, Dave.
Is it?
Yeah, it would.
Well, I think we're scraping the barrel here, fellas. I think that's sort of there's got to be there's got to be a whole sort of safeguarding issue thing. There's got to be health and safety, So let's just move on.
Lee, ball boys have been a part of football since football started, and we're not doing it. And why not? We
During
just
the
don't
war.
know.
Memories.
You have a look at any football league ground, Lee. It goes on there, so why can't we do it? Right, moving on to last night. There we are. Saints were in action down on the south coast, away to the terrors of Weymouth. Conceded 8 goals in their 2 previous home games, lost the previous 3 games going into this match. And we started really strongly down there. We did, and very positively. The trouble is we weren't really testing the keeper, and that's the way it went through the game. Topsy-turvy game. They had the lead, we had the lead, they had the lead. Back we came again. Michael Johnson made certainly 2 good saves, possibly 3 very good saves. They hit the woodwork as well. Whereas we didn't test their keeper like that, despite probably having the balance of the play. Now, you two have seen highlights of sorts of a game. What do you make of it?
Yeah, so I had it on the radio, coupled with the bootleg video footage. I think first half we had enough about us to sort of really sort of put it to them. I have to say, and I don't know why this is, but it was the first time yesterday I actually took a really detailed look at the league table. Jake spoke there about like tables and points and where we are. Yesterday was the first time I really sort of took any sort of notice of it. And because obviously it's getting to the business end now. And I think I said this on last week's pod that I was a bit concerned about this game because, I don't know, Weymouth, we don't always travel well down there. It sounded as though by the radio that we had enough and we were quite wasteful. And yes, they had their chances, but we had quite a lot of the ball and they just couldn't cope with us. Listen very briefly to the 1 minute 55 second post match from Meeksy. He wasn't happy, which I think gives you a suggestion just how much this is definitely 2 points dropped in terms of where we are in the table now.
Well, your take on it, Jake, because Weymouth did have a couple of spells where they put us under pressure. And certainly late on when they got those 2 goals, it came from sustained pressure. But what did you make of it?
Yeah, I was listening to it actually on the Weymouth commentary, and they actually thought they were pretty fair. And throughout that first half, they were talking about, thank God we don't have possession stats at this level, because I suspect it'd be about 78-80% to St Albans, and they were openly saying that St Albans, pretty much all over us at the minute. And like Lee said, it just feels like that first half maybe was the real opening. I know we went behind early, but we responded really well, it sounds like. We got 2 quick goals. Amazing what happens when you let Shaun Jeffers take free kicks. I mean, it's barely happened this season. Look now. And then just feels like we maybe should have pressed on a bit more, get a third, and that's it done. But we couldn't. And Weymouth slowly came back into the game. And it sounds like, again, we missed 1 or 2 openings. I think Mitch put a head wide. There was a Shaun Jeffers chance that might have been offside, or if Rasulo was offside afterwards. And then unfortunately, Weymouth, they were going to come into it at some point, weren't they? And they did. And we almost paid for it.
Yeah. As we were saying, Shaun Jeffers got us level when we fell behind to Brandon Goodship's early goal. And no, Shaun Jeffers did not get us level. It was an own goal, which hopefully the proper highlights will clear that up later on. Shaun put his head with that free kick. As you mentioned, Jake, we've mentioned on here so many times, free kicks around the edge of the box. That's Shaun's territory. And at last, we let him take ones. And what happens? Oh, blow me down. We get him goal. He gets a goal. It's almost like us calling early in the season for him to play, wasn't it? And he turns up and he gets goals. But then late in the game, when Weymouth did put us under pressure, they got those 2 goals. Naz Bakrin, I think, got the first one on his first start for the Terrors. And then Charlie Rowan got them ahead on 90 minutes, and that looked like it. But then Zane Banton calls cucumber 5 minutes into added time, strokes the ball beautifully into the roof of the net. So 5-all. That's 3-all even.
5-all?
Like it. That looked like it all over. But when we scored again, didn't we? Now, you two have seen the clip, and the linesman got it wrong, didn't he? But our disallowed goal, lovely finish by Jake Berger. He should have stood.
Yeah, it looks like it, doesn't it? And I've seen a still from another camera on the other side, and he looks even more onside from there. So it is a real shame because it's a brilliant finish, isn't it? And watching it, it's so hard to be an assistant. I don't think any of us could ever do it. But he does look onside, and it's such a shame. But we shouldn't have been relying on that. We should have had the game out of sight. We shouldn't have capitulated not capitulate, but like that. And we shouldn't be relying on Zane Banton to score an absolutely brilliant goal. It has to be said in the 95th minute. I mean, to be fair, when they scored that third goal, I thought, this is done. This is all over. So a good bit of fight there. But again, we just shouldn't be putting ourselves into these difficult positions.
No. That over point on the road, Dean Williams again said, point on the road, that's good. Win your home games. Well, we didn't win our home game Saturday. That, I think, is seen as 2 points lost.
Yeah.
It is. And although young Jacob claims that we can't be, we can do the job of the assistant. We can do a crap job, mate, because, we can sort of match that. That was a massive, massive oversight from the assistant yesterday. That was clearly onside. And it has cost us. But then again, I think we have to look at ourselves in all of this, waste chances, waste opportunities. Are we as potent in front of goal? Did we use all of our sort of clinical prowess up at Torquay, perhaps? I don't know. But the fact is that we're still scoring goals and we're still creating chances and the character's still there. And I think we need to remember that. I think it's very easy to sort of be downbeat about how the game unfolded yesterday. But one thing I would say on the flip side of that, look at how we rallied around ourselves and we're never beaten. We're never beaten. We could have quite easily lost at home to Welling on Saturday. We absolutely should have lost last night. But there's still character there. And I think we're still grinding out those results. And that is a good trait. I wouldn't like to sort of see us go the rest of the season under that sort of guise. But I think once things... And don't forget, boys, we had injuries last night. Our back line was decimated. There were people playing out of position. People haven't played there for quite some time as well. Take that into consideration as well, because that's a massive point no one's really addressed yet. No Francis Clark. You've got Partington, the back line is gone. Clark, you've had Smith playing in there, you've had Bowie playing in there. It's not a settled side, and it's not a settled back line. So take all that into consideration. It's a point. Let's move on, and we fought hard for it.
Well, Weymouth, they've had injuries as well, particularly with two central defenders, which is why they conceded so many goals lately. But that's their problem, not ours. The only thing I will say again is, yes, we did have a majority of the play, no two ways about that, but they had the better chances. Are we taking just maybe a bit too long to get ball into the box sometimes? We try and do it so intricately, and it's great when it works, but so many times it doesn't work, and maybe an earlier cross in there would be more beneficial. But anyway, another one for Shaun. He's on his way towards 200 now. Shall we run through the players above me? He's the 7th City player to get 100 goals. Next in the list, 109, Bobby Childs. A lot of people who saw him play. He's their favourite City player. Another one coming up later on. Paul Miles as well, 118. Charlie Bunce, 148. We'll ignore own goals on 162 now. John Butterfield, 176, classy player. And Steve Clark, familiar to a lot of supporters nowadays, 322. But out in front on 356, Wilfred Harry, better known as Billy Minter. Will he ever be caught? Can you see him being caught? 356?
No way. Not in today's game.
I doubt it.
Shaun's going to be quite old, isn't he, when he gets there?
Yeah.
Some people are claiming that he's quite old now. At 31, for crying out loud. That's outrageous.
I thought, Dave, when you said let's run through, I thought you were going to say let's run through Shaun's 100 goals from best to worst. I'm glad we didn't do that.
Well, the Christmas we do the programme, wasn't it? Programme's 94 goals will be much quicker. Right.
God.
That's that all done with then. Should we move on to Hampton on Saturday? Hampton and Richmond Borough. We saw money a few weeks ago. We gave him a right pummeling last 20 minutes down at the Beverley. Couldn't get a winning goal. But they've bounced back a bit. 3 games unbeaten now after a little dodgy spell. We've got a couple of tough ones. Them this Saturday, Maidstone away the following Saturday. What can we expect from those? And points-wise, let alone performance.
Well, let's take one at a time. Let's look at Hampton. I can see us winning, if I'm honest. But it just depends on the back line. It depends on the injuries and the fitness. You'd like to think that we've got enough in our locker. I don't know. This is it, isn't it? You know, because we should have beat people. Come to the game expecting us to beat the likes of Welling. The one thing I would say is that Hampton like to play football when they can, which suits our game. I think they're going to be more than happy to let us have the ball. But other than that, it's just a matter of personnel, and I think that's going to be the only stumbling block for us between now and the end of the season, if we can keep everyone fit.
Since the turn of the year, Hampton's record against the top clubs isn't that special. Maybe we should have beaten them down their place. What do you think is going to happen, Jake?
No, I agree. I think there's 2 factors here. I think the first one is Lee mentioned the squad and the players and the injuries at the back. If Joe Partington's out, I think there's always going to be a concern there at the minute, especially with Francis Clark as well. If he's not available, of course, we don't know how long they're out for. There's another thing is Ryan Blackman as well, who's absent. I think we expect that's probably for personal reasons, do we think, instead of injuries? And then another factor is Hampton and Richmond and the style they play. If they want to shut up shop like they did at their place a few weeks ago, it will be very difficult to break down. But if they actually do come out and play a style of football, maybe on a wider pitch, a bit more space for them, maybe we'll be a bit open as well with our defensive issues. I think that could be a negative. They might score, but I think it will open up a bit more for us to try and cut into them as well and create openings. And Shaun Jeffers, etc., might actually have a chance to have a touch in the box, stuff like that. You know, so I think there'll be those 2 factors there. And even if they do sit back, I think we will hopefully have a bit more of a plan for how to break them down, because we saw a few weeks ago that we just didn't quite have enough. So hopefully this time around we can, which would be really, really welcome. And this is a really big game.
You 2 mentioned the injuries there, so depth of a squad. Of course, we've called back 2 of our lone players, called back George Morrell and Charlie McDonald from Bedford Town. Rather surprised, maybe, to bring back Morrell rather than Ibia Canby. We'll let him go in the first place. But I suppose it's bodies.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lee's confused. Well, not confused pace, but slightly, unsure face. I think sums up really. I'd say Ibby only went. It's difficult, isn't it? Ibby only went out on Friday, didn't he?
Yeah.
Dartford, so it's probably a bit harsh to immediately recall him when you get sending him out for minutes on the pitch. But if you want options, surely he's the better one than George Morrell. But I don't know. But like you said, Dave, it just feels more like bodies to sort of fill gaps in the squad and probably in training as well at the minute. While we've got these players struggling in terms of injuries.
Okay. Well, should we do a prediction for Hampton while we're here?
Oh, God.
I'm going to go 3-0.
Oh, my God.
That's right, Jacob. That's right.
I'm going to go 1-1.
Oh, a 443rd. Is it 1-1 draw or something like that? Yeah, I'm going to go for their record not being great against the top sides. I'll almost match you, Lee. I'll go 2-0. I hope Michael Johnson doesn't drop one like he did at Weymouth.
You kept that quiet, eh? On your little summary. I noticed you didn't sort of put the boot in too much there, David.
He's dropped a couple lately, but when you look at him, he's had deflections, but and they've ended up being decent saves, so no criticism in there. But that was it. The second Weymouth goal last night, he complained forward. barged into and whatnot. Well, I've had a look
Of
at it
course
a
he
few
would.
times. I
Yeah.
can't really see it. It happens. Anyway, shan't worry too much about that. Clean sheet Saturday. Right, what else we got? But last Thursday was an event at Clarence Park, a fans forum. You two were there. Which one of you wants to talk about that?
Go on,
Go on,
Jacob.
Lee.
Oh, okay.
No.
You put
no.
it on me. Right, okay, fine. So, unfortunately, there were no strippers, like I proclaimed last week. Shocking. It was okay, actually. It was one of the better ones that we've attended. Jake is going to sort of interrupt whenever I say anything which isn't factually correct. What normally happens in these things, anyone that doesn't normally attend them, is that the owners sort of gaslights us for the first 2 hours, and then we get into like the nitty gritty of players and all of that. This was the first time I think I could genuinely say that the co-owner showed a side of himself which I've never actually seen before. There was a humility to him about his sort of past, predictions about new grounds, etc., etc. The new ground is, Jake backed me up, it's no nearer than it ever has been, although we are closer in so much that the language that the council are now using is more favourable for us. So in the past, there was no real sort of impetus or desire for the council to help us find somewhere to ply our trade in the future. They've now changed the language for the new local plan to say we are actively looking for a new ground for St Albans City. But again, anyone that knows the area of St Albans, those spaces to build a new ground on are very few and far between. So I would say it's no closer, really. But Lawrence spoke well. There was compassion there. There was, as I sort of say, there was a humility. He admitted he was naive in some of his earlier claims about a new ground and the time scale of which it would sort of be with us. So it was good in that aspect, and you could sort of talk to him, and there was a little bit of sort of toing and froing from sort of fans about what they want to see from like a new ground. Some of the questions were good. They were insightful. I think it sort of separated all of the nonsense you normally sort of get at these fans forum events. And I think Jake, I don't know about you, mate, but I actually found it quite enlightening. The fact that it wasn't like fans forums of past. We can actually get a word in edgeways, and there was positive, friendly dialogue backwards and forwards between us and the top table.
Yeah, definitely, I'd agree. It was one of the more positive ones we had. I think the setup of sort of pre-submitted questions and then opening those questions up to the floor after each was sort of answered initially actually worked really well. And I say I thought those on the top table, particularly Lawrence Levy, as we said, the co-owner, he did come across very open and very approachable, which we haven't always had from people at these events, which was much more welcome. And the honesty around the stadium and other issues was appreciated. Everyone's not going to be happy at these, but it was good. And then, of course, we also had the section after to John Meeks, which I think everyone found very informative and very positive. And again, it was noticeable how happy and open again John Meeks was to communicate with supporters and tell them the things they wanted to know.
Yeah, that's it. All done.
Well, that was it. I mean, to be fair, the pod got a few notable mentions, did it not, Jacob? Meeksy is desperate to come on the pod. He's waiting for his invitation. So, Dave, we'll leave that up to you, mate. But again, it was just there was like the usual. So once we got past the owners' hour and a half, it was time for Meeksy. He spoke, as we would expect, eloquently. He spoke well. He's got good plans. He wants this job, and I think he'll do well at it. And I think you've got to give the fella time to sort of, it's really difficult to come from an assistant moving up, even though it's the same sort of unit of players. There's sort of slight. He admitted there was sort of tweaks and things that he wanted to sort of implement on the side, but we've got a good manager. He knows football inside out, and I think that's really, really crucial. And he likes to play football the right way. we heap praise on the fact that Welling are up there in terms of the form table, but I know which team I would rather watch week in and week out. And the brand of football that John Meeks is going to want to play is easy on the eye and wins just as many games.
Worth mentioning as well, of course, that John Meeks, they announced that he was going to take over the job permanently during the forum, I think, until the end of next season, isn't it, Lee? So that was really good news, and I think really good to see. And I think most fans welcome that news. It seems like the sensible decision, doesn't it?
Well, it's the first time I've heard that phrase mentioned to the end of next season, Jake. Does that say he's on a contract, or is that just what they wish?
I presume he's on a contract.
Well, don't forget, Nobby was on a contract, but he wasn't because the club didn't send it in.
You can tell.
Well, he might be. Well, he might be back soon, considering the form guide at Wildstone. So, contracts make contracts. It's an agreement, which is good enough for me. But the one thing I would say, the one disappointing thing about it, it's just the attendance. It was really poor. I thought there'd be more people there. I don't know, Jake. What do you reckon? It was 35, maybe 40 tops there. But I guess everything at the time on the pitch was going tickety boo. It'd be very interesting to see how many more people turned up in the height of the Jeffers Gate saga when he wasn't sort of playing as much. Maybe people only sort of turn up when they've got a gripe or they want to sort of hear something tangible from the manager about something that's not going as well. So, but apart from that, it was good actually. I enjoyed myself. Ian Hall, he bought me a drink, which was just unheard of. But apart from that, yeah, it was really, really, really informative. I thought the new media manager, Matt Bigg, he tried hard to impress. I think he's going to need to sort of grow into the role a little bit more. He's a friend of mine, and this isn't anything that I haven't sort of told him to his face as well. So I think, but a football club is a completely different entity when you're working there constantly than any other sort of business venture. So, but Jake, he was sort of keen to sort of grill Matt on a few things, and you got some insightful answers. But on the whole, it was really, really good sort of tabs. And I honestly think, mate, you would have enjoyed it.
Maybe the attendance not great because people are waiting for something really solid about the ground. I mean, what you've said there, Lee, we have heard it all before. I'm sorry, and I looked through Ian Rogers' notes. We've heard all it all before. This stuff, we made mistakes in the past. What, you didn't do a due diligence on the one on Coney's Heath Lane and realise it then cost you millions to get it cleared and where you could build on it, and then the second one at the Noke where it would have cost £27 million and they wanted the builders to give it to them for free, and that price came from the owners, by the way, not a made up figure. It's fanciful. Is it really in the council plan? Have you seen it in black and white written down, the council saying yes, we are helping St Albans City? Because we've heard that before, and lo and behold, out comes the strategy plan and it's not in there. So maybe when there's something more solid, the fans will get behind it. But maybe, they have heard these words before.
I suppose it's worth. I mean, in the draft local plan, there is a mention of the new stadium in St Albans City, but it's only a draft, and Lee could probably go on about the hours of the intricacies of local government and local council policies. But there's a lot of question marks over that local plan. There's a lot of things coming up, and of course, I never thought I'd mention this on the St Albans City podcast, but we have a general election probably coming up this year. There's a lot of factors there. And in reality, we don't actually know when that local plan will be published. So until we know that, like Dave, like you say, it is going to always be a hopeful and a hopefully. But it was nice to at least hear the owner admit that they probably have got it wrong previously. And Lee basically said, we don't have a site agreed at the minute, and it's going to be 4 or 5 years minimum until we have maybe a stadium built, if not longer. So that was appreciated. But yeah, like you say, Dave, until it's firm and on paper and all contracts signed, it's difficult for fans to know what to expect.
All right. Is that the forum done?
I think so, yeah. I think just worth mentioning, there is minutes on the St Albans City Trust website, some brief minutes for anyone. But like Lee said, if we ever have any of these again, I encourage people to attend. whatever your thoughts, positive or negative, on the club, go along and just, if you can, it's an interesting evening and it gives you a chance to speak to those people at the top of the club that you don't always get the chance to.
Right, looking around National League South, one managerial change this week, which is quite an interesting one. Adam Hinshelwood leaving free scoring Worthing and free conceding Worthing as well, to become manager of York City, who are level on points just outside the relegation zone with David Noble's Willstone in the Conference National. That's an interesting switch, isn't it? Come out of the blue.
No brainer. Absolutely no brainer. Where would you rather live, Worthing or York? You know, just, I mean, come on. But in all seriousness, you know, you spoke about the sort of football that you need to play to get out of trouble. One way is to be staunch and strong and tough to beat, you know, your stringers, or you can play free-frame football with what is arguably a better squad of players to choose from as well. You're going to have money at your disposal. Not that they're going to sort of spend it unnecessarily, but you get a better sort of chance. And you know what? Even if the season doesn't end well for them, they've got a foundation there now. And I genuinely believe that he, along with former Saint Gary Elphick, are going to do some good things up there because they play football the right way. They get hard workers. And, you know, to get anywhere in non-league, you're going to need hard workers. And they've got those in abundance.
I wonder if they take goal machine Ollie Pearce with them, and that'll leave it clear for Shaun to bang in a few more and be National League South top goal scorer this season.
It would be appreciated, wouldn't it, if we get to the playoffs? That might help. Have you noticed who York are playing this Saturday, by the way?
Are they really? Willstone.
Yeah.
It's a rough ride. It's a rough ride for Nobby, isn't it? Jesus. Anyway.
It can be tough, can't it? Right. I think we're just about done, aren't we? Unless you two have got anything of interest.
No, it's all good.
No, I don't think there's anything else. Thank you to everyone who's been watching on YouTube and also a few people that listened on Spotify. You can find us on there, Podful of Saints. Check us out on Twitter to find those links. And you can see the email inbox in the description below. And I think on that note, if there's nothing else from you two, we will say goodbye and we will speak to you again next week once the Saints surely pick up 3 points against Hampton on Saturday. Right. Come on, you Saints. Bye-bye, everyone.